This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Condensing regulations and becoming a martial supreme was the biggest threshold in the martial Dao. Many geniuses had been stopped at this threshold. Some people had reached the peak of the martial honor realm for hundreds of years, but they were unable to take another step forward. Zhang Xiaotian was already a 9-stars martial supreme, and the biggest challenge he was facing now was to advance to the rank of martial supreme. In his opinion, Yunxiao's secret technique of condensing rules was even more important than getting the ageless mountain. Yunxiao laughed and said perfunctorily, "As long as we can escape from this formation, everything will be fine. If we don't have to be trapped here for the rest of our lives, so what if you can advance to the martial supreme realm?" As for the two experts from the Myriad Stars Valley, it would be enough to avoid them as much as possible. The unaging mountain is so huge that it's not easy to run into it. A flash of anger appeared on Zhang Xiaotian's face. He knew that Yunxiao was deliberately avoiding it, but when he thought that it was not easy to learn that kind of secret technique, he gritted his teeth and said, "All right, I'll cooperate with you. However, if we successfully escape this place, you must teach me the secret technique." "Yes, I will," Yunxiao said with a smile, his eyes narrowed. His comprehension of rule force had already reached the peak. This place was condensed from the rules of the 4 seasons, so it was very common for him to use it casually. When the time came, he wouldn't be lying to Zhang Xiaotian. This hope could also suppress his conflicting emotions. Otherwise, once he left the spring, summer, autumn, and winter territories, he would lose the power to compete with Zhang Xiaotian. Then let's go. I also really want to see what kind of existence this 9th-tier top-quality profound armament is. Zhang Xiaotian collected his thoughts and casually grabbed the storage ring of the dead junior brother and broke it with brute force. A long gray banner appeared in the air. A green face had just appeared in the banner when it was pulled out by his 5 fingers. The blue face was in pain and screamed in pain. It was useless as Zhang Xiaotian pulled it out. With a flash of blue light, it was put into the black ring on his middle finger. The streamer lost its main soul, and its light immediately dimmed. The huge resentment and death chi quickly dispersed, which were casually thrown away by him. The eyes of the junior brother behind him flickered. It was hard to tell what he was thinking, but he felt a sense of sympathy for the fox, but even more so, he felt envy. Everyone in the Temple of Holy Fire felt their scalps tingle. Although they had reached a verbal agreement, they still listed these two as the most dangerous people. Is this the rule of spring? Spring has returned to the earth, flowers bloom, and everything is thriving. In a unique space, Haolian Shaohuang could feel the flowing power. He seemed to have gained enlightenment. As he waved his hand, a little power appeared on his fingertips. He gently pushed out with his palm, and the green color of spring gradually appeared in the surroundings. It condensed into a ball and slowly rotated in his palm. I can already condense the power of the natural order, but why hasn't the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens appeared yet? The power in my body is no different from before. His face was full of confusion, and he couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought. Wisps of purple-gray gas appeared in the surrounding spring green. It was not very eye-catching, but it spread extremely quickly. After it appeared, it surrounded young Emperor Haolian in a few breaths and began to corrode his body. Miasma? Ouyang Qi? Humph. Young Emperor Haolian snorted and saw Ouyang Qi's figure appear in the air. His body was surrounded by purple-gray miasma. He took a step forward and stepped on the frequency of the space's vibration. The wind from his fist flickered as it came down. Let's see where you're going to run now. Purple frost miasma. The miasma that filled the sky formed a small tornado, whistling and pushing over, growing larger and larger. Young Emperor Haolian's long robe fluttered in the strong wind. A ball of spring green appeared in his hand and spread out in his palm. He lightly rebuked, "The rhythm of spring, all living things are revived." The ball of spring green spread out like a wave, and the purple miasma scattered wherever it passed. The entire space was filled with the scene of spring, like the willow flowers blooming and the birds singing and dancing. The power of laws. Ouyang Qi was shocked and his body turned cold. His face was filled with fear and he cried out, "You've advanced to the rank of a martial supreme?" Steady. He's only comprehended a little rule force. He's still far from being a martial supreme. Chen Chuanzhou's voice resounded. A crack was torn in the space and a huge vibration could be heard. It was as if the space was about to shatter. A huge sword as wide as a washboard swept across, cutting through the sky. Heavenly ancient bronze sword, break. As he shouted, sword chi filled the sky. The green color of spring quickly dissipated, and the entire space was filled with sword chi. The 8th grade heavenly ancient bronze sword was just right for Chen Chuanzhou's bold and unrestrained sword aura. With a slash, the overbearing and unparalleled origin power stimulated an endless sword might that rumbled down like a thunderbolt. The rules of spring that were surrounding young Emperor Hao Lian were all shattered. The sword might was enough to topple mountains and overturn seas, and it traversed the vast sky. Chen Chuanzhou's power was surging. Although they were both peak 9 stars martial venerables, his vital qi accumulation was far stronger than that of Hao Lian Xiao Huang. However, he had basically given up on the idea of becoming a martial supreme after failing to do so for so many years. He no longer harbored any hope. That was why he couldn't allow others to advance, let alone a strong opponent. Young Emperor Hao Lian, I must kill you today. His face was filled with ruthlessness as he looked at the rules of spring around Xiao Huang Hao Lian. The despair he had felt after many years of trying to advance to the next level without any results condensed into an extremely strong jealousy and hatred at this moment. He was determined to kill. Humph. Young Emperor Haolian snorted coldly. He remained fearless in the face of the sword gleams and miasma. The law of spring condensed once again under his guidance, like a green spark in spring. It danced joyfully in his palm, reflecting a calm expression on his face. There was not the slightest trace of panic or emotion. Using the empty finger to punch in the palm of the Baiyan. It's all about the diamond body, commanding the wind and clouds, being indestructible, and being invincible in the fist consciousness. A voice appeared in young Emperor Haolian's mind. It was the first time he had learned boxing. Gu Feiyang had guided him and taught him with great care. Is that so? He got into position and slowly pushed out a punch. It was simple and unadorned, as if this punch had been like this since ancient times. It was neither humble nor overbearing, neither increasing nor decreasing. The green qi in the surroundings quickly gathered and fused into his fist. The entire space began to distort rapidly. Not only was the spring coming back to life, but there was also the scorching summer, the desolation of autumn, and the silence of winter. 4 powers of different colors appeared and surrounded his fist before fusing together. The rules of heaven and earth and the power of the 4 seasons have been integrated into his fist wind? Chen Chuanzhou's eyes suddenly widened as he gasped in shock. Xiao Huang Haolian's talent for comprehension seemed to be above his expectations. If this person did not die today, he would no longer have a place in Mercenary City. Boom boom boom. The 4 seasons Vajra fist shattered the space and engulfed everything. The 3 energies clashed together and the entire space shattered. A black hole appeared between the 3 of them and began to suck in all energy. The devouring power spread out. Not good. Guild leader, save me. Ouyang Qi was the first to be sucked in by the devouring power. Unable to break free, he cried out for help in fear. Chen Chuanzhou gritted his teeth and tried his best to resist the force. He was too busy taking care of himself, how could he have the time to save others? They could only watch helplessly as their companions were swept into the spatial turbulence in despair, with almost no chance of survival. Xiao Huang Haolian was also resisting the devouring with all his might. He gathered the regulations of heaven and earth in front of Chen Chuanzhou with all his might. The regulations appeared around his body bit by bit, slowly negating the devouring force. It was actually becoming easier and easier for him. Chen Chuanzhou was getting anxious as he watched. Is this the imperial qi of the 9 heavens? Young Emperor Haolian was pleasantly surprised to see the changes in his body. A feeling he had never felt before rose in his heart. It was as if he was becoming one with the world. He had never felt so familiar with his surroundings before. The essence energy in his dantian was also slowly changing at this moment. The energy in his meridians became extremely powerful. It was not a simple accumulation, but a qualitative change. 9 Heavens Emperor Qi. In an extremely well-hidden place within the spatial zone, Qing's pupils also contracted. Its eyes revealed a look of great joy as it muttered excitedly, "That's great, the speed is far faster than I expected." However, he has just condensed it, and the process will take some time. The Emperor Qi will become denser as time passes, and that will be the time for me to snatch it. Boom. Suddenly, there was a huge tremor in the space. The suction force of the black hole suddenly slowed down, and an extremely strong pressure came from the sky, almost squeezing the entire space to explode. The trace of Emperor Qi that young Emperor Hao Lian had just condensed dissipated as well. His entire body was suppressed and bound by an extremely overbearing force. He looked around in shock, but he could not see anyone. He tried to condense energy grid lines again, but it was to no avail. The force was like a mountain, pressing down on his heart and not budging in the slightest. Chen Chuanjiu was also extremely shocked, but at the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. Under this force, even the black hole that devoured everything lost its color and gradually disappeared. Although he was restrained by this power, he at least avoided the pain of being devoured. As he watched the Emperor aura that had just gathered on young Emperor Hao Lian's body start to dissipate, he laughed gloatingly. The Unaging Mountain. The power of the Unaging Mountain has been activated in advance. In a hidden corner of the space, Qingzhu's face turned pale with shock. Its face was so dark that it was about to drip water. It felt cold all over, from head to toe. The battle between Xiao Huang Halian and Chen Chuanjiu had triggered the power of the Unaging Mountain in advance, which had suppressed the black hole that had burst out. Not only that, the entire 4 seasons barrier started to change due to the activation of this power. Qing's face paled once more. To its shock, it discovered that although the 4 seasons territory was made up of its main body, it was unable to put up any resistance at all. The 4 seasons began to take turns in its midst. After Xiao Huang Holian and Chen Chuanjiu activated the power of the Unaging Mountain, the scorching sun on the peak of the mountain began to gradually fade away. The frozen snow at the foot of the mountain also slowly melted, forming small rivers that flowed around the mountain. The withered branches and withered leaves on the trees all began to sprout. The 4-time territories surrounding the heavenly immortal mountain also began to change. The border became more and more blurred, and the water and milk merged into one. The entire formation turned into spring. All things recovered and flowers bloomed. It was filled with the joy of spring returning to the earth, making people feel warm. Yunxiao and the others, who were flying toward the immortal mountain, were all shocked by the changes in spring. They could feel the endless changes of the laws of heaven and earth, and their hearts were filled with infinite yearning. My life has a limit, but martial arts is boundless. Yunxiao sighed with emotion as he felt the world changing. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, feeling tiny and insignificant. Humph. Zhang Xiaotian said disdainfully, "People of my generation should become martial sovereigns and rule the world." What boundless, it's all bullshit. Rule the world? In your opinion, Yunxiao chuckled, you think that you can rule the world as a martial sovereign? It should be known that there was no lack of martial sovereigns in the heavenly martial realm, but since the ancient times, who dared to say that one was in charge of the world? I think only Yi Nantian dared to call me that all these years, but he was just a speck of dust in the end. Zhang Xiaotian was also silent. He felt the vastness of the world and the insignificance of his own power. At this moment, he actually had some understanding. He came back to his senses in shock. Just now, his body seemed to have undergone some minor changes, but the changes were wonderful like never before. It was different from the integration of heaven and earth during cultivation. Instead, it seemed to have been sublimated to an extremely high realm and a qualitative change had occurred. That was Ying Luo just now. He was a little uncertain, and it was difficult for him to suppress the excitement in his heart. What made him even more vexed was that he had come out of that realm in just a moment, and he had only comprehended it slightly. Even so, the benefits he had obtained were incalculable. Yunxiao's eyes were filled with surprise. He was very sure that Zhang Xiaotian had just sensed the heaven and earth by chance and showed signs of condensing emperor qi. Compared to the accumulation of vital qi, opportunities were more important in becoming a martial supreme. Zhang Xiaotian's great talent surprised Yunxiao, but it was normal when he thought about it. How could anyone in the Soul Devourer race who could become a 9-stars martial supreme without having their soul extracted be an ordinary person? Among the 7 superpowers, the probability of a 9-star martial supreme advancing to the martial supreme realm was very high. Zhang Xiaotian also seemed to have guessed what had happened to his body. He was completely stunned, followed by incomparable regret and annoyance. He beat his chest and stomped his feet, almost vomiting blood. The people of the Temple of Holy Fire saw his face turn pale and then gloomy. He beat his chest continuously. They were dumbfounded and thought he was sick. Kid, don't be sad. Just look on the bright side. Yunxiao comforted him like a senior. Zhang Xiaotian was so angry he spat out blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "You little brat, you know nothing. How could I be so stupid to not cherish it? Do you know how much of an opportunity I've lost? There's still a chance. Furthermore, you've managed to catch a glimpse of an opportunity, which will greatly increase your chances of breaking through in the future." Zhang Xiaotian was stunned. He was surprised that this kid had discovered the changes in his body. Moreover, he had suddenly gained some enlightenment during the conversation with him just now. When he thought of Yunxiao's previous performance, he suddenly became a little afraid of him, and his face turned dark and uncertain. After that, the group flew into the unaging mountain without a word. It was full of spring inside, full of vitality everywhere, giving people a very comfortable and pleasant feeling of striving to improve. This mountain is so big, how can we retrieve the profound level weapon and open the boundary? Zhang Xiaotian couldn't help but ask. After entering the mountain, they discovered that it was much larger than what they saw on the outside. They couldn't see up or down from inside, only endless trees and mountain flowers that were tender and brilliant. Other than the rich spiritual qi, it was not much different from an ordinary mountain. They had no idea where to start. Yunxiao smiled at him and said, "Just because we can't do it doesn't mean that others can't. Let's see what the others are doing first. In any case, we can only rely on luck to break through this immortal mountain. We can't rush it." Big brother Yunxiao, Yifan said, "The unaging mountain is so big. You're like an ant inside. How can we find others?" He was also a little anxious, not for the unaging mountain, but for the Noah's ship. Ever since he had entered the 4 seasons barrier, that feeling had been faintly discernible. He didn't know how Tang Jiat and the others were doing, or if they had found the location. "We'll have to rely on the 2 experts of the Soul Devourer clan," Yunxiao said with a smile. "They have their own way of searching for living souls. Even if those people are dead, they have a way to find their souls." Yunxiao looked at Zhang Xiaotian and said with a smile, "Am I right?" Both of them were taken aback. Yunxiao was talking about the soul-searching technique, a secret technique of their race that was not passed down. This secret skill could only be cultivated by the experts who were at the rank of martial honor and above. It was a secret skill used to search for powerful souls in the surroundings. Not only could it detect the location and strength of a living soul, but it could also detect the location and strength of a dead soul. Even within the Soul Devourer race, this secret technique was an extremely secretive existence. Ordinary disciples had no way of knowing about it. "Alright, since you also know about this technique, there's no need for me to hide it. However, I'll say it once more. If we can leave this place safely, you must pass on the secret technique to condense the laws to me." Zhang Xiaotian once again mentioned this matter seriously. The instant condensation of Emperor Qi just now made him have infinite enthusiasm and expectations for the promotion to Martial Emperor. Now, even if Noah's ship appeared in front of him, he couldn't resist the temptation of promotion to Martial Emperor. Yes, don't worry. At our level, our words carry enormous weight. Who would go back on their words and give birth to inner demons that would hinder their cultivation? That's good. When Zhang Xiaotian heard him mention his heart's demon, his expression changed slightly and he was relieved. The later a martial artist cultivated, the more they paid attention to their nature. There were no other things in their heart. If a heart demon was born, it would be difficult to resist it unless one had an extremely high temperament, and it would be difficult to advance in the cultivation path. No one would joke about this kind of thing. He took out his soul-devouring banner and unfolded it in the air. A cold and gloomy aura isolated the vitality of spring in the surroundings, forming a terrifying space of resentment. The golden soul slave slowly emerged from it, stretching its body. Its green eyes kept sizing up the people outside, looking very intelligent. A green light flashed in Zhang Xiaotian's ring and a twisted green face was caught in his hand. He threw it over and said, "Eat it." The golden soul slave's eyes lit up with a green light. It opened its mouth and drooled as it excitedly pounced on the green face. The blue face struggled in fear, but it was devoured by the golden soul slave in a few gulps. For some reason, the golden light on its body became even more dazzling. Zhang Xiaotian frowned slightly, seemingly dissatisfied. He muttered, "Such powerful soul power, yet there's only this tiny bit of change. How am I supposed to raise it in the future?" When the people of the Temple of Holy Fire saw this terrifying scene, they broke out in a cold sweat and kept moving out. They only felt a little warmer after leaving this gloomy and cold space. Yunxiao's pupils constricted as he said, "Golden soul slaves are divided into 4 grades, heaven, earth, black, and yellow. Every advancement requires tens of millions of dead bones and vengeful souls. This profound artifact refining method is too damaging to the harmony of the heavens. Sooner or later, they will be punished by the heavens." The junior brother behind him looked at the golden soul slave with envy, but when he heard Yunxiao's words, he was stunned. Clearly, even he did not know the level of the golden soul slave. Zhang Xiaotian's body trembled as he stared at Yunxiao in horror and said, "The secret of the golden soul slave is only known to the elders in our sect. How did you know about it?" "Would you believe me if I told you that I've seen Huangfu Biai's sky gold soul slave?" Yunxiao smiled and pretended to be mysterious, which made the two look surprised. Zhang Xiaotian didn't know what level their sect master's soul slave was. He only knew that there were 4 levels of golden soul slaves. This was something he had inadvertently heard from an elder. However, since he was the sect master, he should naturally be of the highest heavenly gold rank. But, he would never believe that Yunxiao had seen it before. He snorted coldly, "TSK, you've seen it before?" Everyone in this world who has seen the soul slave of the sect master has become a part of the soul slave of the sect master. He only felt that Yunxiao was becoming more and more unfathomable, and he was getting more and more frightened. After he calmed down, he sat down cross-legged and began to use the soul-searching technique. After the golden soul slave ate the cyan face, it showed a satisfied expression. As Zhang Xiaotian sat down cross-legged, it also sat cross-legged and moved with Zhang Xiaotian's hand gestures. Its movements were exactly the same as Zhang Xiaotian's, but they were a bit slower. Soon, the golden soul slave made a strange seal with his hands, and a red light emitted from his hands. His eyes kept rolling on his face as if he could see through the vegetation, the forest, and the layers of space, staring into the distance. Everyone tensed up as they watched the soul slave's expression and observed the changes in his expression. The soul slave's eyes rolled around slowly without any expression. The people around felt a chill as if something had swept through their souls. Even in this spring, they could not resist the cold air. Suddenly, the soul slave retracted his gaze and turned his eyes to stare at Yunxiao. A dark green light burst out of his eyes, and his saliva poured down like a waterfall. He really wanted to eat it. Yunxiao was so frightened by the soul slave's appearance that he sucked in a cold breath and took a few steps back, his face turning a little white. His eyes flashed with anger as he shouted, "Zhang Xiaotian, what do you mean by this?